Welcome back, everybody, to your daily update on the state of the Malazan Empire, or that soon-to-be Malazan Empire. Right now, it's still the state of Liang, and this is the next ramblings about Dancer's Lament, because I managed to actually do my reading today, and at chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, and I had a lot of time, and those are like rather fast and easy reads, so here we are. And let's do this, right? Or maybe. That was disappointing. Anyways, cheers. All right. So we continue basically with the same setup that we had before in the next couple of chapters, that being mostly jumping between the three main viewpoint characters, those being Eco, Silk, and Dancer or Doran Rath, I think is his second name. We don't know at this point. I mean, it was mentioned and I forgot it, but we kind of jump between those three. And the siege of Lihang is now in full swing with everything that entails. And we see, like, I would say, a first round of escalations on all sides. And this is something that I found fascinating here, or, well, not fascinating per se, but something to keep in mind or be aware of with this storyline is it's deceptive, right? You read it and it's super easy to read. It's the prose is not too convoluted. There's not that many viewpoints. We have one city setting, and that's all of it. We don't jump around that much. It's deceptive to just go through that and just go, oh, that's an easy read. I was like, there's a lot of depth in there as well, and we're going to come to some of that later on in the book, and maybe even today. And the first thing that I find interesting here is that we kind of see the escalation in the siege mirrors the escalation in a way that happens with Doran Dancer, and him trying to come closer to whatever his goal actually is, which is kind of the problem because he doesn't really know what his goal is apart from maybe getting even with Wu, Wu the wizard. But more we don't really know. And what we see here near, like, around chapter 8, for example, we have that point where another parallelism in a way where it gets even mentioned, although we the people draw the wrong conclusions, right? We have, on the one hand, we have Shalmanat, the protectress, deciding to call on use her powers to actually get Rylandaris, the man beast, to help, or, well, help is the wrong word there, but to take part in the defense of Lihang by attacking the Canese forces outside the city. Now, obviously, what preceded that was the attack of the Nightblades on the Protectress, which was that first escalation. So we see all those escalations. On the other hand, we see similar escalations going on in the underworld, with all of that ending with the summoning of what we, I guess, can already call the Hounds of Shadow, which is obviously cool because they're there now, and we already learned something that I find very fascinating here. That being that even at this point, at this early in his career, Wu, soon to become Kellenved, is already very much interested in shadows and has already knowledge of the shadow realm that not many people have. And we don't know where he's got that knowledge from about the hounds, which, apparently no one was supposed to know, or no, only like the really powerful mages were supposed to know. So there's that going on. The hounds are loose. People are aware of Wu, and that whole thing will probably come to a head relatively soon. Something that I found not fascinating but interesting to talk about, however, is the role of Rylandaris as the protector of the city in a very real way. Because once again, what we find here is a theme that we've seen a lot of in the Malazan world, no matter where we go, and that theme being obviously the idea of civilization, or the encroachment of civilization on other forms of living. In this case, that being the protectress, apparently has a deal with Rylandaris that she prevents the settling of the Seti plain, the building of trade routes, trading posts, and all of that stuff that we know how that will work out, right? It's like you build a town there, more people come, the Seti will lose their way of life, Rylandaris as sort of their protector, also someone in need of, say, large tracts of land to run around and kill people on, will have to find some other place, and so forth. So that is obviously once again one of those themes that are like part and parcel of the Malazan world. Yeah, that we find here. Then there's obviously lore things that are crazy cool, like Shalmanat mentioning Urisander's Legion from Forge of Darkness, from the Carcanas trilogy, because, well, we find out she's a Taist Leosan. So there's that. And the whole idea of her trying to actually keep peace in a way echoes, obviously, the whole sentiment of people like Anomander Rake or even Draconis in the beginning of Forge of Darkness. There will be peace. Well, we kind of know how that works or how that doesn't work. On the other hand, we also see the continuation of the inner struggles in the realms of the sword dances of King Chulalorn, Eco, and this is one thing that I find really cool and really interesting, or really well handled. The way that the disillusionment of Eco, who is like slowly inched into her role as second in command to, well, the commander whose name I always keep forgetting, because of her trueness, true principles, and her moral fortitude, and all of that. Right? She's 150% disciplined. She's 150% honorable and dutiful, and all of that. And the deeper she goes into that hierarchy, the more those like beliefs get challenged in a lot of ways. Because what we see here is, and this is exactly what this is, like actual power politics are a messy thing, and you don't want to, well, I don't want to be part of it, but we find it in all kinds of situations. We find it in all kinds of hierarchies. You have the whole like jockeying for position among her, like among the sword dancers, the other like sword dancers. We have that, obviously. We have, on the other hand, the jockeying for position within the hierarchies of that dancer that Doran is slowly getting into. This is another one that is like really interesting to look at, because he's also like something of an idealist, and we're going to go back to that in a second. But what we see here, and this is once again really interesting and really important, is how being on the outside, or being in a sort of protected space, makes it much easier to hold on to ideals, to duty and self and honor, whereas going into like actually mingling with these ideas of politics, of power and so forth, will necessarily challenge those beliefs. And we see that with Eco, although so far she's holding out. It's just that she encounters more and more of that, and she has to question her devotion to her King Chulalorn, right? She was incensed when She thought that the Protectress would hire assassins to attack the king, and then the king sends Nightblades to kill the Protectress. And she's like, those, you know, we see her getting out of that. And this, once again, is, I feel, one of the strengths of this novel, just as much as like any Malazan novel, but very much also this one, to see how characters, all kinds of characters, react or adapt to change when their worldview gets challenged, and how they deal with that in the future. So that's certainly something that we find here a lot of, and that's fascinating. We also obviously get more Hood. We still haven't heard the swordsman's name yet, but apparently we learned that there's something real going on there. When what's his name? Well, Dancer tries to is sent to assassinate the priest of Hood, and finds that the priest's already dead. We'll see where that is going. There was obviously a warning, a forewarning that there will be death if Dancer goes with what's his name, with Pong, but we don't know what that will be yet. But it's important to keep that in mind, I feel. So, what else was there to talk about? Well, I mean the non-relationship between Dorin and the girl whose name I contemporary just in this moment forgot because I'm an idiot. Ulana, Ulana, I think that's her name. Ulana, Ulana. That's her. Yeah. Um, the non-relationship because Dancer is too daft to get it, which once again, mirrors the Crocus thing that I mentioned earlier. And also probably is just like very indicative for a lot of um, young or adolescent males in general. When I look back at my, time when I was 16 to say 18, 19, 20, um, and like people in my circles at the time, boys can be extremely thick when it comes to realizing if someone, cares for them. We can be really stupid in that regard, so makes sense that Dancer doesn't get it either. But and that's like the other thing that is really interesting with Dancer. Dancer is an arrogant bastard, because, well, he's good at his job, and that makes a lot of sense. But what comes with that, and this is something that we need to look at in our world as well, is like the idea that competence in a specific job makes you better than the rest of the people in other regards than just, in his case, throwing knives and killing people. He looks down on Olana, and I'm not sure if that actually is her name. I'm uncertain. Well, he looks down on the girl and her parents, the stablers. He looks down on everyone because he's an arrogant piece of shit at this point. And the problem with that is, and this is something that we see there as well, when he's trying to figure out whether he should kill Ruffle or not. When we learn that he doesn't hold to any morality. He has like some inner integrity, which, is good. But the idea that we have that people like him just ignore any form of morality or morals as being constructs leads us to the question, like, how those, well, it's that basic question, is like, how can a society function if you have people that just don't actually agree to play within its rules? And you have people like Dancer who are comparatively small fish at this point, at least. But you also have obviously like the people on the top, like what's his name? Silk is one of those people. Silk's an arrogant bastard as well. He's a great mage, and he just really like behaves like an absolute arsehole, towards the common people. This, I guess, is the main issue there. The idea And it's in the word, right? It's in the word. People saying the common people. And if you call someone else the common people, it automatically means that you don't think of yourself as common. You think of yourself as uncommon or better than them. And that's a shitty worldview to start with. And well, we see with Silk very much that he is still trying to find any form of like human emotions towards the species as a whole. So there's that. One question that is already like up there that we need to look at, and we'll see how that continues, is however that everybody's favorite, well, not really favorite, but everybody's favorite mage or annoying mage is protecting or helping protect the kids in Pang's universe. So there is, even if they're not only tools for his ascension to world domination, he does something good there. He may have a weak spot. We don't know. A soft spot. Actually, I figure like Silk may have one too. Because Silk is annoyed by Mara, and Mara's like what he thinks as total worship of just power, right? He just believes that like Mara worships only power, and the greater the power, that's why she follows, or that's why she works for Shalmanat. Not because she actually feels any obligation. It's just like that's like the biggest power around, which is interesting because on the other hand, Silk isn't exactly your your model of civic virtue either, in a lot of ways. But at least he recognizes that. So we'll see if he's actually able to, get anywhere with that or get closer to becoming a proper like a feeling human being, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. Well, so I guess that's kind of it for today. I really enjoy the pacing of this one because we have like through like the much tighter focus on just like these three viewpoint characters with additional asides of Sister of Cold Night on the one hand, and yeah, that girl who I think is called Ulana. It sounds wrong. I have no idea. I'm an idiot. On the other hand, makes for an like a way more like way different pacing, even though there's like breaks in the city when it's like, yeah, for the next 2 weeks nothing really happens, well, except like siege being siege being siege, but apart from that nothing really happens. It doesn't feel as rushed or as jumpy as some of the later books, whether they are by Stephen Erickson or Ian Esselmont. So I really enjoy this, and I think this once again is why I think that this may just be a really good entry point for people into the Malazan world, because you get to learn like you get to learn quite a bit about like one specific place with its culture, with all the things, something similar to what Gardens of the Moon does with Darujistan, but in a more medieval setting with more of those trappings. And yeah, I feel it's just like really a easy read in a way that has its obviously it has its depth and its themes and everything, but it's just like you don't have to work to read this one. Is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I hope you have just as much fun reading this book, or had just as much fun reading this book as I have. Again, because I've read it before. And I'll talk to you tomorrow about more of it. And until then, I'll wish you a great Tuesday evening. Until then, cheers.